Hey, Planeswalkers, Mythras here. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. Today is one of my favorite days, and doubly so. We are doing a historic tier list for you. So last time we did one was in May. Lots happened. We're going to get you set up here nicely before Dungeons & Dragons Forgotten Realms comes out. We'll talk a little bit about that here today as well. So certainly a host of things that we're going to cover. So flip me a like if you enjoyed the video today. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll get right to it. Down below in the timestamps in the description, you will find a best of one snapshot, a best of three snapshot, tier list reveals for both best of one and best of three. We'll talk about some key points, trends, and observations. I'll give you a couple of high-level deck dives. And then we're also going to do something special here today. We'll do some speculation in terms of historic shifts coming out of the Forgotten Realms Dungeons & Dragons. Many of you have been asking me about this, so I did want to talk about that here today. And then, again, we'll do a little bit of retrospective on where we're going to next. So with that, Planeswalkers, again, appreciate you tuning in. Great way to support the channel down below in the description. On top of that, if you have questions, if you have comments throughout the video today, please let me know down below, or feel free to hop and join us in the Discord server. We've got almost 250 plus strong in there. It's absolutely incredible. Great community that you're welcome to come hang out with as well. So let's get to it today. But before we get started, for those of you that are new to tier lists, essentially this is a stack rank of the most powerful decks when it comes to Magic in terms of win rate, over under, who's going to do better, who's going to do worse, most likely in a matchup, and then also against kind of the aggregate meta as well. So very, very excited to be covering that here today for us. So first off, though, what are we looking at? This is something new that I added in here since the last time that we spoke. I wanted to give us a snapshot of the different metas that are going on today. So this is really important for you as you make your decisions and your gameplay. And the biggest piece here, as always, is this is the snapshot of the win rate today and the popularity today. Something I cover in Friday Night Meta every week for standard, and like to do this as well for us in historic here today. So here's the best of one snapshot, very recent. So as you can see, May 27th until now. But the biggest piece is this is really about today. When we go down below, you'll see these trends over that time, and that's why. So the biggest stuff right now, 5-color Dragonstorm. Now this is blown out from Bronze to Mythic. We'll talk a little bit more about this. Selesnya Angels, Jeskai Control, Mono Green Elves, Azorius Auras, Gruul Aggro, Is It Phoenix, Mono Red Burn, and then on the other side here, you can see the portion of the meta. So a little bit different here when it comes to historic, because there are so many decks here that we don't see as heavily skewed information. 10% is pretty big. Jeskai Control still doing quite a bit as well. 5-color Dragonstorm being a slightly less piece of that meta today. And then as we scroll down, we can see how these things are trending over time in terms of play, in terms of win rate and things like that. But what we really want to do is we want to look at the more competitive side. So we'll look at Platinum here. So here's what we got going on in Platinum today for you as well. We see Boros Burn in this here creeping up. Then we also go into Diamond. So here's what we got in terms of Diamond. And then when we hit Mythic, not going to be as much information, primarily Mono Green Elves. Everyone's playing Mono Green Elves because they zoomed quickly to get up there, and you can see that as part of the portion of the play. So early season out of the gates here in July. Wanted to give you this information again as a snapshot prior to us going into the Forgotten Realms Dungeons & Dragons here, so you can see that. So now let's go over to best of three so we can get a glimpse of what this looks like. A little bit different here. Some of those decks that we saw aren't played here, and vice versa. So again, an aggregate, Selesnya Company, Mono Black Aggro, Junk Food, Gruul Aggro, Jeskai Control, Is It Phoenix, Dimmer Control being a new one. We'll talk about that a little bit later. 5-color Niv Mizzet Reborn, just ran that one yesterday. You can check it out. We also ran it live stream too on Twitch and YouTube. If you enjoy following me there for those kinds of things, you can absolutely check that out. And then obviously again on the side here, excuse me, coming off of a cold here, the respective archetype played percentages as well. So then when we scroll down, we see a little bit of that change going on again here. We can see these things. We can also see when the banner restricted announcement happened that Jeskai turns. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But again, why are you here? You want to see the more competitive stuff. So let's go ahead. We begin to see Bant Angels here at the top. Mono Black Aggro, Selesnya Company. Gruul Aggro, Is It Phoenix? Jeskai Control, Dimmer Control, 5-color Niv Mizzet. Same thing, retrospective. Let's go ahead into Diamond. Still seeing what we got going on. Jun Food being very strong here at Diamond. Mono Green Elves getting up there as well. So that's something to keep an eye on. We see Boros Midrange, Is It Phoenix, a few other things. The last but not least, we'll see if we get anything in Mythic. No. So too early in the season, but this is really important to see how these things shift around as the play changes on that competitive side here for us. I always like to call that out. So one other thing that I do want to talk about here when it comes to data and statistics, when we do go look at the Untapped tier list here, and you can have access to this down below. I do share a link with you that you can get a hold of. But here we see June 10th forward. This is more of that aggregate view. This is a very, very important thing to look at in terms of play, because it's just not that singularity snapshot, but we can see how these decks are actually performing with higher match counts and over time, which is very important. So I did just want to show you that. There's the best of 3. Here's the best of 1 as well, my friends. So let's go ahead now, and without further ado, we are going to go ahead and take a look at these lovely tier lists here for you today. Now, again, these lists are available for you down below, so you will have access to it right away here in the description. So let's go ahead and look at my old eyesight. Let's zoom. There we go, and see what we got going on. So couple of interesting things here. So first off, Boros Burn is a very powerful deck again. I know Delwar messaged me, I think day 1, day 2, and hit number 1 again with the deck. So love to talk through these things. But here's what we got going on for historic best of 1 for July this year, 2021, for our tier list. So tier 1, we have Boros Burn, we have 5-color Dragonstorm, we have Mono Green Elves, we have Jeskai Control, Selesnya Angels. Tier 2, we got Azorius Auras, we got Selesnya Company, we got Is It Phoenix, we got Jun Sacrifice, Simic Stompy, Mono Red Goblins, Gruul Aggro, Mono Red Aggro. And then tier 3, we have Dimmer Rogues, Rakdos Arcanus, Mono Red Burn, Mono Black Snow Aggro, 5-color Niv Mizzet, 5-color Reanimator, and Selesnya Ram. So this time around the tier list, I was able to get through a lot more decks. So we have about 20 decks, which is great for us. Certainly a lot of stuff that I also didn't get to that I wish I had more time. I was off by a week. I was hoping to get some more of these decks crushed and knocked out for you here. But this is what we have. Now, when it comes to best of 1, we primarily rely a lot on some of that ranking that we just talked about. But again, I do like to try and balance it out with some of these things over time. So like 5-color Dragonstorm has certainly skyrocketed here really at the beginning of the season. Everyone likes playing a lot of these combo decks. It's when you see the trickery stuff popping in as well. So it's important to kind of keep an eye and know that depending on where things are at in the season, there's going to be a skew in those things. Boros Burn has been very consistent over time. It is a very, very strong deck along with Mono Green Elves. Jeskai Control is still in there. Selesnya Angels is still in there. A lot of these things are really, really close, particularly if you take the tier 2 list and kind of dice it in half and go up. It's really, really tight right now. And these things fluctuate a little bit. Again, over time or day or who's playing what, but certainly all decks that you should be familiar with, equipped with, and know where they're sitting right now, particularly in best of 1. So if you got questions, if you got comments, let me know down below. If there's something you absolutely disagree with, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you and the why. So, or feel free to hop in the Discord server. We do have a ton of historic players in there as well, and would love to see you in there. And maybe they'll defend me, maybe they won't. So, next, best of 3. Here's what we wanted to do. So, interestingly enough, we'll talk about this here in a second.
Our tier 1, we got Mono Green Elves, Dimir Rogues, Mono Red Aggro, Selesnya Company, Mono Black Snow Aggro, Gruul Aggro, Jeskai Control, Izzet Phoenix, Jund Sacrifice, Rakdos Arcanus, 5-color Niv, Mizzet, Simic Stompy, Azorus Auros. We get into Goblins or Mono Red Goblins, Boros Burn, Selesnya Angels, Mono Red Burn, 5-color Dragonstorm, Selesnya Ramp, and 5-color Reanimator. So all big things here, as we can see, some of those being similar in terms of best of 1 and best of 3. The biggest one here is at the top, a little bit of a shift in terms of what we had last time. We could talk about this a little bit more in the observation piece, but Mono Green Elves has been very strong again post-ban. I think a lot of players have shifted from best of 1 into playing it more in best of 3. Rogues has been a solid deck with a lot of the counter and control magic that you can play with it, just like in standard, giving you a lot of options. Mono Red Aggro starting to creep back up. I just covered a top 50 deck on this. Very, very powerful, streamlined, fast damage still. Can most times outpace elves too, depending on a few things. And then Mono Black Snow Aggro was just a solid deck too. So rather interesting when we see that. The Izzet Phoenix decks, the Jeskai Control decks certainly are still heavily played. I really enjoyed getting to the Jeskai Control this season, and particularly for this tier list for you here to check out and get some ideas, particularly post-ban as well. The decks did get a little bit weaker. I think it was also probably a perception of players that maybe backed off those decks, but then also, maybe Izzet Phoenix wasn't as good as people thought. It's still a great deck, but wasn't quite as good as people thought, for example, as well. So that is our historic best of 3 tier list. We do see, again, some of those shifts that we had talked about, a little bit difference here in terms of best of 1 as well as best of 3, which is good in terms of that deck diversity here today. So with that now, I do want to move on and talk about some of the key observations. So I'll leave up the best of 3 tier list here as I kind of walk through these items for you here today. So first off, big one is that time warping no more. After that Strixhaven championship, and we saw everyone playing Jeskai Control and Izzet Phoenix decks on all the works. Obviously, Wizards of the Coast acted fast, came in with the banhammer and knocked out Time Warp. So one of the reasons why I waited, I wanted to see where things kind of landed. We did see a lot of shifts in terms of what was going on. We can certainly see that here today in some of the best of 3 stuff. Now, one of the things that I did want to also talk about is our Anthology 5 and double tap into that. 2 big pieces here, dragons, and more dragons, particularly when we get to our best of 1. We see that 5-color Dragonstorm really becoming more of a thing. It is a nasty combo, a little bit more consistent, I would also say, than something like a Tibalt Trickery, despite it being very fun either way. And then also tokens have been a thing, and some additional 5-color Reanimator stuff that we got out of Anthology. So those are kind of the big things that we picked up there with the Praetors and the Dragons, and a little bit of fun there in that space. We obviously have the commands that are played, particularly I think Kolaghan's that we see a lot more, Kolaghan's command. Now, the next piece here, though, is we definitely do want to do a rain check on some of the combo lookout stuff that we had talked about previously. Jeskai turns had made the impact that we had thought, again, leading to that time warping banhammer that we talked about. Indomitable Creativity, I didn't get to this month. And certainly something that's still being played. A lot of players looking at that. But the other thing that I did want to talk through here in terms of some of these other combo decks, again, we see this explosive nature of the Dragonstorm. We see the Neostorm decks. We also have the Paradox Engine decks. And on top of that, we do have the Reanimator deck. and those things. So there are a lot of combo decks that we're starting to see in Historic. It is the place. If that's what you like to play, you can certainly do that. The other thing that I do want to talk about here is there is a deck for everyone right now. It is a fairly healthy meta, despite what we showed kind of with the tier 1, tier 2 list in both best of 1 and best of 3. You can see that there's a wide range of stuff going on here right now, which in my mind tends to lean towards a healthy meta for the most part. Again, we saw that Banhammer correcting a lot of those things, particularly the Jeskai control stuff, which can be long matches. I know I posted my video and some folks gave me some feedback on that, but it happens, and that is what it is. The other piece here is, as we kind of close out the season, always a lot of fun in Historic, a lot of things people shift, have some fun there. There's a little bit more in terms of deck building, creativity, and things as well. So certainly looking forward to what we have going on with Forgotten Realms. So with that, I'm actually going to come back to the last piece here in terms of observations and trends in a little bit. We're going to do it a little bit differently because it is all about the Forgotten Realms. Essentially, a number of cards that I've called out here. You can absolutely check out the article posted down below as well. I'll make sure to have those cards listed and considerations for you as you move into the Historic season here with the Dungeons and Dragons stuff that we have coming out here soon. I think in like a day or two. So I was off by a day. Actually a week is what I meant. So with that, let's go ahead now and we're going to pop back over here to our lovely arena client. And I do want to leave you with a couple of decks here. 3 decks in particular. I always like to touch on some of these things, stuff that made a difference for me, particularly as I was going through what we had going on here with the tier list. Mono red aggro, always been a fan favorite of mine. Many of you know that. And certainly still a very powerful deck here. This particular one was the top 50, and the other reason why I like this is Shadow Spear. So shout out on that. But this deck absolutely crushes it. If you want a good option in terms of an updated list, this is a good one for you. It has lots of great opportunities for best of 3, works great best of 1 as well. Excuse me. Next, 5-color Dragonstorm. I did not get to this deck. You will be able to check it out down below. I didn't get a chance to play it in our Historical Access, and I didn't get a chance to play it in general. This does take a ton of craft. I'm still trying to save there for what's coming here. But as you can see, the powerhouse of Terror Peaks, Blade Wing, just keep popping things back. You have Unburial Rites, you got Mizzix Mastery, you also have Emergent Ultimatum. So many ways to cheat this stuff out. Very incredible. Something to keep an eye on. Again, you got the turn 4 combos here when you get these things in your graveyard, and when you can start popping off a lot of stuff there as well. So very big addition here, particularly at the open of July, and as we moved kind of post ban. Last deck that I wanted to cover with you, Niv Mizzet. So another fun, cool deck, 5-color kind of combo land deck again. So many different options. Just posted this video, like I said, and on top of that, we ran it live on Twitch and YouTube, so you can go check out some of that gameplay. We had a nice start, 2-0, then just didn't go well. Shuffler said, no, Mythras, not your day, and we live and we learn and we move on. So with that, those are 3 decks that I did want to equip you with for today. Now, my friends, what you've also been waiting for is we are going to go ahead and we are going to talk now through the Forgotten Realms. So here's a couple of big pieces. I'm probably not going to be able to remember all the cards that I had listed out here, but again, please feel free feel free to check out the article. I'll have these listed. Let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit more. Oh, there we go. That's a little bit better. Feel free to check out. Ooh, can we go across? No. Check out again the article down below. I'll make sure to have some of these listed, and we'll talk about this. And I'll try and make sure that I cover most of these here as we're going through them. But first, the big one here, and I'm not going to highlight each of these. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about this stuff in standard here in a little bit. But what we need to take a look at. I'm going to talk about the card quickly. And we'll talk about where these could fit in. So the Book of Exalted Deeds. This could be in any Angels deck. Essentially, exile this book. Put in a Lighten counter on target Angel. It gains you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. Activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty good. A great way for Angels decks to have another, like, hey, I'm not going to lose win condition. So something to remember. And keep that in mind. So you might be able to not, obviously they can remove the angel at some point, but gives you some idea there is something that could be used. Next, we have all kinds of stuff here. Where'd you go? Dragons, Dragonstorm. Here we go. There's all kinds of dragons in this set. Things like this, we're going to see a host of more. Just wanted to call these out because it's going to happen. This one here, Keen-Eared Sentry. I think this is a good card in the Death and Taxes mono white stuff. You have hexproof, and that's going to be a big thing there. Each opponent can't venture into the dungeon more than once. Probably going to be better for standard, but something else that you could call out there as protection for yourself. Again, they're not going to be able to target you with anything, so they can't target player and discard, those kinds of things as well. Something that might see play, or at least a budget historic deck for those of you that might be looking to move in. Next, as we continue to go down through here, Paladin class. Things are gonna make your opponents cast more and cost more. Again, taxes also makes your stuff better. This is a nice one drop, and over time you can continue to get that value that you might need with those decks. So that's a big one. Then we get into let's keep going. A host of things. Staff, where are you? The Black Staff of Waterdeep. Artifact stacks. We haven't seen a mono blue affinity kind of deck in a while. Could give you some options there for that, or artifacts. We also have Demolich. This might be decent in a mono blue control type deck. Again, one less to cast for each instant or sorcery that we've casted this turn. You can play it back from your graveyard. Lots of different things that can happen with this one as well. Next, the big planeswalkers. Murda Kanan. I probably destroyed that name. Expensive, but for a control deck, might be a good option for you. Again, maybe this is going to be in the Azorius decks or Gandalf decks or Jeskai. Something to keep an eye out that we might run into. Next, we have, where are you? Trying to move through these. Wizard class. You have no maximum hand size. That seems pretty good for a one, particularly in a deck that loves to draw stuff. You could see this in a ton of things, I think. So we'll see what happens there. I think this could see play. These things that build up over time, particularly, again, in controlled type decks, can add a lot of value. Excuse me, and make a lot of things happen. Next, we have, again, all these black dragons, we got zombies, all that kind of stuff. The Book of Vile Darkness, always great in a mono black deck. I could see this being in the zombie deck, a bunch of different things happening there. One to potentially keep an eye on. Next, Sphere of Annihilation. Where are you? Boom, I probably went too far. Here it is. Sphere of Annihilation. Could be good in dimmer control, could be good in mono black control. Host of things here as well. It's kind of got that suspend, comes into play. At the beginning of our upkeep, we exile it. All creatures, planeswalkers, all that stuff with less value than those counters. Then we move in to our lovely red. So here you could play something like Battlecry Goblin. Again, 2/2. paying 2. Again, a cheap goblins deck for those of you that might be interested in still playing gobos, because that is still a thing. We just talked about that, so that could be something for you too. Next, we got Inferno of the Stars. Let's see where you are. This guy right here, Inferno of the Star Mounts. This spell can't be countered, flying haste, and it's got fire breath. And when its power becomes 20 this way, it deals 20 damage to any target. Sounds like a good finishing card, particularly in control matchups. Seems good, seems nice. I think it might work. So again, Dragon's deck, anything running red might be something decent here. Next, we got Minion of the Mighty. Again, potentially here, combo deck, cheat deck. I think there could be a host of things that could happen with this card. It is a kobold. Done. Let's call it a day. Then, as we move forward, we have our green Circle of Dreams Druid. Does this sound familiar? Add 1 land for each creature you control. It's a 2/1. Sounds like a playable Elves card, if you ask me. So that's going to be a big one to keep an eye out for. Also going to allow other players to get in on the Elf stuff here as well. And add to a lot of the Elf stuff and Standard, the Golgari stuff, potentially as well. Then we have our Ranger class. Where are you, Ranger class? And someone, I like this card, Lurking Roper, the best. Ranger class, here we go. No, that is not what I wanted. Ranger class. I did want Ranger class, sorry. Ranger class, here's why. Level 2, that's what I wanted for it. Whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. So there you go. And a way to go up. Now, what I didn't catch is for each creature. If it is each creature, then absolutely good. If not, then I would say this probably isn't going to see play. So that might be my misinterpretation there. Next, where are you, our friend? Werewolf Pack Leader. This seems good. 2 green, 3/3, lots of stuff going on. Whenever you attack, we also, with 6 greater, draw a card. This has always been a problem for things like Mono Green Stompy, or Simic Stompy, or even potentially Gruul aggro decks. This card I would expect to see play potentially there as well. That's going to be very good, again, in my book, in that in that space. Last but not least, just because I want to have a multicolored one, and certainly there's a host of things that you could probably make work here, and I'm not doing everything justice, but just for fun, Guild Kingpin Xanathar. Just because we want to lock people out with dimmer control and call it a day here. So that one just looks good. So with that, my friends, that is a whole host of Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, Dungeons and Dragons overview here for you, for Historic. Now, I did not probably get the exhausted list here, but gave you some key cards and concepts to think about as you move into the next set release here. So with that said, Planeswalkers, to circle back on everything, flip me a like if you enjoyed today's video. Appreciate your support as always. Great ways to do that down below in the description, and you'll find all the timestamps and information, the website information. You go check out the article that I wrote that comes with these, the tier lists, all that stuff. We covered snapshots and best of 1 today, snapshots and best of 3. We gave you both the best of 1 and best of 3 tier lists. We equipped you with some cool observations that happened with Anthology 5, some of the meta shifts, and then additionally into the cards that we're talking about here for the future. And gave you 3 key decks that you could certainly run with today and have some fun. So, Planeswalkers, with that, I hope you enjoyed today's historic tier list for July. Look forward to putting together a new one once we see all this stuff, and maybe we could come back and I could say Mythras called those cards out, and we had some fun with that. So, Planeswalkers, thank you always for your support. I truly appreciate it. Again, if you have questions, if you have comments, let me know down below. Appreciate your support. Flip me a like, and great way to support the channel down below. Stay tuned because we got a lot of stuff coming your way. I'm going to continue to do top decks, both Standard and Historic. We got Friday Night Meta coming. We have tier lists that we just did for Standard. Now we did it for Historic. We got Jank coming. We always love doing Jank. And last but not least, I will do something similar. So please give me any feedback in the next 24 hours for Standard as well. And we'll talk about some of these impacts to some of the decks that this could have, or some of the new decks that could be coming. So with that, Planeswalkers, as always, thank you so much. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you again soon. Mythras out.